Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel, wishing you a happy start to this hump day as we get prepared for a big Wednesday, potentially a big Wednesday, as there are one major setup kind of looming overhead that we actually haven't spoken about at all on this channel because, well, it just hasn't been relevant until now. It's been really only the lower term timeframes that have been leading into the higher term timeframes, but now we're going to start to see the higher term timeframes start to lead into the more higher term timeframes, likely dictating the next few weeks to come. Anyways, without further ado, we should probably just jump right into it. I should, however, let you know before we get into it that you can still get the Jewel Light for free for the first 30 days if you do follow the link in the description below in like all the directions. And then also Bybit's still doing their 0% for maker fees for derivative contract orders if you used the affiliate link in the description below as well. All right, sweet. Let's just jump right into it. Starting off right over here with a follow-up of yesterday's short-term time frame analysis, where we're looking at the 2-hour HPDR indicator as giving a setup yet again. This one's been actually like quite prolific on many different timeframes, well, for a long time now, but especially in the last few days here, as we do see this one kind of ebb and flow based off this. But yesterday, basically, the setup was this: Bitcoin closing below the blue 50% of historic returns range lows right here. That is always the first condition. Then coupled with a declining moving average on the volatility reads, as we did see over here, which did happen on this vertical bar, this blue vertical bar, which actually I really want to make green now because that's just an easier color on the eyes. There we go. Yeah, nice and visually apparent. So that initiated the setup as said by, of course, the nice little back tester right here, which did have a higher probability of a bounce to the upside, somewhere between like 3 to 5%. And in this case, it looks like all exit conditions were met after the entry over here, and so far so good. Or I mean, not so far so good, but yeah, there it is. About $1,000 move there, from 27.7 all the way up to 28.6 or so. Pretty damn close. So ultimately that one played out. And what does it mean for now? Nothing, because no major ranges have been broken alongside of that. Of course, if we go over here to the 12-hour time frame, the ranges are still the same as what they have been before. While Bitcoin did reject the bottom side of the range, as you can see right here, that was giving us a bias for a bounce coming in on early Wednesday. You can see that Bitcoin just popping back up to the median range right here. You know, no closures above, just wicks above, which is fine, but there is no resolution just yet. So still the same thing as before, meaning that if Bitcoin can close above the median, which is 28,700 on a higher term time frame, I would be looking for Bitcoin to likely try its way up into the low $30,000 territory. By the same token, there will be blood. There will be a bit of panic if you do start to see closures below the bottom side of this range, which is just around 27,000 bucks. At that point, I would be looking for another slide down to low 26, probably an attempt for a bounce there, and then likely continuation lower down to 25 before the next sort of potential major low, if you will. But for right now, there is one major thing that is looming overhead, as we alluded to in the opening statements from this video, and that is this: the daily is starting to have a major setup over here, which we have not spoken about one of these setups in a long time now, just because, well, they don't happen all the time. Obviously, like daily, 2-day, 5-day, weekly timeframes, like they really only get a few setups per year. Especially the higher term time frame that you go, the less setups you're probably going to be getting. Anyways, in this case, the daily volatility versus stochastic momentum signature is once again rearing its beautiful or ugly head, depending upon your disposition with that. But ultimately, what we're talking about right here is, of course, low volatility represented by the BBWP indicator right here, getting to extreme lows, which are defined as anywhere around about 10 percentile. Or more, which right now it's not quite there. It got down to about 13 percentile, so pretty damn close, as you can see. And the longer that Bitcoin kind of stays around here without having resolution, that will naturally come down somewhere around that region. Anywhere around that region is pretty good. So, you might even argue that 13% is enough already, although that is not the exact way that I backtested this data, so it wouldn't be fully accurate to be 100% clear. But ultimately, low volatility creates the conditions where, upon expansion, we look for a pretty damn big move. In the case of this move, on average, as we'll get into the data, somewhere around about 20%. And the direction of these stochastic oscillators had a strong correlation with getting the direction of volatility expansion, right? So in this case, the daily stochastic is still angled to the downside. However, you can see right here that the daily pivot right now is 28,500 or so, or just below 28,500. Currently, Bitcoin's trading about 69 whole dollars above that, inflated dollars above that. Obviously it's a long day left to go, so it really doesn't mean too much right now. You can see that the pivot right here is starting to get closer and closer, more proximal to current price action, as well as volatility having, or around extreme lows, getting very close to extreme lows. So you can imagine that this sort of potential setup probably going to happen pretty damn fast once it does get confirmed, assuming that it gets confirmed, which would obviously be, first we want to see it come a little bit lower, so maybe a few more days within this range. And then expansion upon that, we want to see it, back well above 15, 20 percentile. Of course, with the BBWP above the moving average and all of them with a positive slope. And at that point, we can reference the direction of the stochastic oscillator. But until then, it's more or less a preparation for it. I know that some people, while these aren't signals, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, obviously. But I do know that some people, use these sort of stats and front run them or do whatever they please with them. Please themselves with the stats, I guess. But ultimately, that's up to you how you decide to use this or not use this, or just even, look at it. But here's the thing. Anyways, let's go into the actual stats. So in this case, I've bifurcated the long setups with the short setups. So you can see right here that we're going to be looking at the long setups first for the daily setup. And basically out of 14 tested iterations going all the way back for the past, I think this is, the past 5 years now, 12 out of 14 did play out in the direction of the stochastic oscillator when volatility was expanding. So that gives it a very, very high strike rate at just under 86% over the course of an average of about 10 days. With an average return of about 20% and a standard deviation of about 5.5%. So that gives us a range anywhere between about 15% to like 25, 26%, if that does play out to the upside. So we'd be taking that basically from the base of this, of this particular consolidation, and 15% puts Bitcoin at $32,000, and 25% puts Bitcoin significantly higher at about $35,000. If that does come to the upside, of course. If we do see that Bitcoin fails the momentum pivot, then obviously the downside will be more likely. Out of 20 tested iterations in the past 5 years now, there has been 14 out of 20 that did play out with a sizable downside move over the course of just under 11 days on average, with an average return of just under 20%, similar for standard deviation here as well. So if we did see that come to the downside, then we're probably looking, somewhere back around $25,000 at least. That would be kind of my major area of interest, and that's probably where I'd be looking for a major low on a monthly if that were to happen. But of course, both of these areas do line up with significant areas on the long term here now. So let's just go over here and first reference the Gaussian channel on the weekly, which again did close above the mean band for the first time in the past year. And, typically speaking, it's going to get a ride to the top side of the band, which is, guess where? Just above $32,000. That sounds fucking familiar. By the same token, if it were to fail and we were to see Bitcoin pull back, again, looking at $25,000 as an area of interest, well, if we put on our major movement averages here on the monthly, this is a monthly time frame, the 9 comes in right around about $25,000. So, that wouldn't be out of the, that certainly wouldn't be out of the ordinary. I mean, that would be pretty obvious bounce region, so to speak. But ultimately, going back to it, the upside for right now, going to be more likely from a statistical perspective, as long as Bitcoin is above this pivot, which right now it's about $100 above, which means very, very little, obviously intraday here. But as things go onwards and forwards, this will be the new thing to kind of monitor, as that would essentially suggest that Bitcoin is, still having pressure on to the upside, amongst other things that we've spoken about as well. What are those other things you might be asking? Well, if we go back on over here to the daily, we can see daily is starting to print hidden bullish divergence if it closes here or higher by end of day today. Redundant, right? But if we also go to the five-day time frame, we can see that this particular setup on the Joule is continuing here. It was actually confirmed like fully on the last closure, and this one will likely just be continuation, which is actually closing tonight. So we would expect this to continue with its upside curvature alongside DMI support, which does have, and that would still suggest that pressure onto the upside, obviously. And then obviously that can bleed on over into some other setups, which I think I think we don't need to necessarily go over today. But I think that is a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. We got the ranges, we got the setups, we got yesterday's setup as well. Yeah, that's a good place to be leaving off. As always, I'm going to be wishing you the best of the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.